Our next speaker is Clarke, the director of Woodhaven Gardens, a large family-owned fresh-cut vegetable growing business in New Zealand. As a qualified chartered accountant, Jay brings a unique approach. He's had experience as National Business Development Manager at Nando's Chickenland in the UK and is currently the National Finance and Operations Manager for AbbVie Limited. He wears two hats, farmer and accountant. He's dedicated to the success not just of the farming business, but its staff, suppliers and business partners through continued growth, aiming for a strong, sustainable and socially responsible business. Over to Jay to share his experience from seed to salad, sustainability in action.
My name's Jay Clarke. I'm a director here at Woodhaven Gardens. Woodhaven Gardens is a large family-owned commercial vegetable operation run in the Horticulture Plains of New Zealand. My role is I look after some of the compliance. I do a lot of the development work for Woodhaven Gardens, so new product, new equipment. We grow 24 different vegetable crops here at Woodhaven Gardens. They all sort of fit into the leafy greens sector. We're really conscious of keeping that diversity in the rotation, not only for economic sustainability, but also through environmental sustainability reasons. We're being far more conscious about our environmental effect. So we're trying to produce the most amount of food for the smallest amount of environmental impact. The community at Woodhaven Gardens, we sort of treat it as one large family. We call it a family business, not just because it's in family ownership, but we think of all our staff and our suppliers, our contractors as part of the Woodhaven Gardens family. We have really broad cultural diversity on the farm. Over 40 different countries are represented here at Woodhaven, and that cultural diversity is something that we're really proud of and we celebrate. What to expect from Woodhaven Gardens in the future? I think just continually getting better. We grow healthy food. We literally produce a product that when people consume it, it makes them healthier. And so that's a fantastic story to tell and something that we want to be really proud of and play a bigger part of that as we go forward. Good morning, everybody. The places growing up on a vegetable farm in Levin will take you. I didn't think it would land me on a stage in front of 1,600 people here in Sydney, Australia, but I'm happy to be here and share our story about sustainability on farm at Woodhaven Gardens. So this morning we've heard about sort of sustainability on a global scale, some macroeconomic trends, and today I thought I'd share a little bit with you about what that looks like on farm. We are, for a New Zealand context, a large vegetable producer. We grow vegetables on about 1,000 hectares, and it's easier to tell you what we don't grow than what we do. We do 24 different crops, but we're not doing any hard veggies, and we're not doing, which are spuds, onions, carrots. We're not doing any indoor production either, so no glasshouse production. But we have a shot at from broccoli to zucchini and most of the other ones in between. So we employ at this very minute around 240, 250 staff, all full-time, and about 80% of those staff are New Zealand citizens or permanent residents, and we're really proud of that. That's quite high for horticulture in New Zealand, but we are also reliant on immigrant labour through the RSE scheme and bringing people out from the islands on rotation as well. At Woodhaven, just to give you some context and maybe why I'm sitting up on the stage, we're the first vegetable grower in the country to be certified under the Hort New Zealand EMS scheme, which is their environmental management scheme. In fact, that scheme was founded based on the work that Woodhaven Gardens had done in terms of good agricultural practice, and actually sort of picked up our work and rolled it out in a broad industry-wide scheme. We were the first vegetable grower to successfully be a Supreme Regional Award winner for the Balanced Farm Environment Awards, and we just had Mark from Balance up there, so shout out for them. It's a great award system that allows farmers to go into it and benchmark yourself and where you're going in your industry and get a whole lot of learnings out of that, so that's a fantastic forum. And we were also the first vegetable grower to win the Horticulture New Zealand Environment Award. In saying all of that, there's a photo of our yard. I wouldn't call myself an environmentalist per se. I really do believe that sustainability is the three-legged stool. I'm not a fan of ists and isms. Big problems like this are very broad and they don't operate in black and white, and there aren't simple solutions. And when we get too focused on one of these elements, we tend to fall over on others, and we have unintended consequences. And we've talked a lot about how we produce food in a more sustainable manner. And in New Zealand, there's genuine conversations that the answer to that is to produce less food. And I don't necessarily support that view. We know that access to healthy food is an essential human need. And it's important that farmers continue to play a role to provide access to reasonably priced healthy food and the health benefits that come from consuming that. But we have to do it in a manner that doesn't use and abuse our environment, that supports our staff and the communities that we operate in, and in a manner that's economically sustainable as well. So we really try and push the old-fashioned definition of sustainability rather than maybe the more narrow one that previous speakers have mentioned, that it's kind of getting boxed into this global warming / environmental sort of point of view. But we're trying to take a holistic viewpoint at it. How it all works on farm. We thought we'd start with community. Like any business, our people are our most important asset. We try and take a locals first sort of viewpoint in doing business. So that's trying to hire local staff from our local townships, trying to work with local suppliers, local contractors, even if that comes at slightly more or higher economic cost. We want our staff to prosper, and we want our community to prosper because of how we do business and how we grow food. We run a really diverse staff, so we run a very culturally diverse staff. Even though those 80% of the staff come from New Zealand, are New Zealand citizens or residents, many of them are first generation in New Zealand, and we want to celebrate the different viewpoints that they bring and the cultures that they bring to our farm. Because they solve challenges in different ways, and some of these challenges require different and diverse thinking. We're also a very gender diverse business. A lot of people look at farming and think it can be quite male dominated. At Woodhaven Gardens, it's actually the opposite. We have more females on staff than males, and they probably play some of the most important roles. So our agronomy team is predominantly female. All our QC staff and packing staff tend to be female because they pay more attention to the quality of the product. They take more care. So they're the females are the superheroes of the business and making sure that we get, supremely high quality product out to our customers. Like all businesses, we try to remunerate fairly. So we run off a living wage scheme, which is different from a minimum wage scheme, which enables our staff to live a fair and reasonable life. And we do a lot around staff welfare. I noticed Rabo's got its health check bus out. Well, one of the great things that we do is we have an excellent partnership with our district health board back home, and we provide health services on farm. So we have breast cancer screening services, cervical cancer screening services, vaccination services, smoking cessation services arriving on farm for our people to access. And we literally do kind of round people up. We know our staff sort of don't access health services well. So by bringing it on farm and working with our district health board to give them access then and there, we've seen some amazing, literally life-saving outcomes from doing that. We support in education. We know a lot of people end up working for Woodhaven Gardens in some roles because they don't have a lot of other choice. Look, it's bloody hard being out in a paddock swinging a cabbage knife in the middle of winter in the pouring rain. But they're doing it because they want to get a better future for their family. So we do scholarships for staff. So anybody who's worked for us currently or has worked for us for more than 5 years, even at a point in the past, can apply for a $10,000 scholarship for their children to go into higher education. So we do a bunch of those every year, and it's amazing seeing our staff's children progress and go on to amazing and bright futures. We're really big into sort of supporting the community that we operate in, both with donations to charity, but also through the food that we produce. So we work with local iwis to do what we call a pātaka kai scheme. Pātaka is like a food store, and we drop free vegetables off at bus stops in lower socioeconomic areas of our community so people can access healthy food. Right now in New Zealand, after Cyclone Gabriel, healthy food is bloody expensive. And there's lots of families that are struggling to afford it. So we try and help our best with our product there. We try and run an open farm. We try and get people on farm as much as possible. Anybody who's working in farming knows that you will have your critics, whether it's a neighbour who doesn't like some mud on the road or doesn't like the tractor working late at night. And we found the best way to combat that is actually get them on farm, show them what we do, why we do, take them on our journey about how important it is to produce healthy food for people to eat. And we really try and push that message that we produce a wonderful product that's important for everybody. Some shots of the guys and the ladies cutting some broccoli. Moving on to the environment, and I'm going to have to hurry through here because I think we're running over time a little bit. So everybody's talked a lot about this already. I think the most important step on farm, practically, is to start to acknowledge the impact that food production does actually have. Don't be a denialist. Don't turn around and say, well, it's coming from somewhere else, or this person's just as bad, so don't look at me. Own your footprint, because that'll be the start of your sustainability journey. So when you know where those hotspots are and you understand your farming system and you know whether it's nitrates that it's concerned, whether it's greenhouse gas emissions that it's concerned, whether it's sediment runoff that's a concern, then you can start to address it. And there was a comment just made on the panel earlier about how to eat an elephant one bite at a time, and that is definitely the way forward. When you stand here or you're sitting here and you're listening to these huge problems that we face as a global society, and then you're sitting there on your little farm thinking, well, what can I do? Like, I know I still need to use nitrate fertilizer. I know I need to still cultivate my soil. I can't change that instantly. So what do I do to start? Start small, run trials, try things. Don't farm today the way that you did yesterday just because that's the way you've always done it. So go out there and tinker and play and make changes. You guys will be the experts on your own farm and in your own farming system. You'll know better than anybody else how you can improve. And that improvement's exciting because you not only get incredible environmental results out of it, but you do see it on your bottom line. You're reducing your cost of inputs and you're able to keep up your yield and production at the same time. Let science be the guide. There's a lot of emotion in this conversation and people pulling from both sides, really passionate. Food production's really important and we can't let that die. The environment's really, really important and the food production doesn't matter. Let science be the moderator in that conversation, in those debates, because the science is really clear. The plants need what it needs, the animal needs what it needs. These are the tools available that we have to farm to produce that food. So be communicative around you, people who challenge you, communicate the why you do it in terms of what the science is and the decisions you make on farm. And also, this has also been brought up previously, that good environmental practice doesn't start and stop on the farm gate. Waste in our system is huge, and understanding how we manage things like waste streams, whether it's packaging, whether it's green waste in our business, whether it's food waste with consumers, is also really, really important. So we do a lot of things in terms of looking at different packaging options, making sure that any green waste that's captured in our pack house goes out to feedlots to provide feed for cattle, for example, so then less feed crops need to be grown for those cattle. So better utilisation of all parts of the product stream is really crucial. Last but not least, if we don't stay economically sustainable, we don't have a business in the future. We want to be a multi-generational farming business, whether it's my kids' kids or my kids' kids' kids, or it's some of our workers who end up owning the business. I don't know, but I would love food to still be produced off this land. We have incredible soils for food production in the Horowhenua. We're incredibly blessed with the climate for growing leafy green vegetables. It's a great place to do it, and we want to see that continue on. And that only happens if we remain economically viable. We are running short on time here, so I'll skip to just a couple of highlights of things that people haven't maybe talked about. There's a viewpoint in New Zealand, and often leaders in the industry talk about, hey, farmers, it's okay, we're going to ask you to do a little bit less, but we're going to get you a higher value for your product because how we're going to market it to our consumer. Now, that's great for some of our products, and that story really works and resonates for some of our industries. But there's a couple of points to make here. not every farmer can market to the top 1% of consumers who can afford to pay more for their food. So that's not a solution for all farmers and all farm types. The other really important thing is that access to that healthy food, to me, is an essential human need. And we can't keep driving up the cost and driving up the cost and driving up the cost to the consumer where they can't actually afford to purchase it. Right now, the cost of fresh vegetables in New Zealand is beyond probably your average household as a result of lost production out of Cyclone Gabriel. And that's not a great result in a place that we want to be. So we need solutions on this journey that actually work, that keep that healthy food reasonably priced and enable all parts of society around the globe to be able to access that healthy food and benefit from the nutrition and the health outcomes that come from it. We know that New Zealand is the second most obese country in the OECD, yet it produces enough fresh food to feed 40 million people when we only have 5 million citizens. So we're not doing some things well there, and we need to get better at making sure that people can access the healthy food that we produce. Picture a jar doing some nitrate testing. Look, I've only got a couple more minutes, so I'll just touch on this really quickly, the role of regulation. At Woodhaven Gardens, we actually welcome regulation. We think it's a great thing. But that regulation needs to be simple, it needs to be workable, it needs to be effective, and it needs to make sense. So, like I said, the answer can't just be that we're going to produce less. So we need regulation that can actually be workable on farm. And we've had a tidal wave of it in New Zealand. You talk to any New Zealand farmers that are in the audience today, I think there's been about 7 or 8 major pieces of legislation around biodiversity, around significant areas of national nature significance, around freshwater regulations, around emissions, etc., that are all affecting what we do on farm and how we grow food. And those regulations need to make sense, and they need to be workable, and they need to keep our businesses economically viable at the same time. Or else the pushback will end up being so great that we don't get any progress at all. And that's the real risk here, is that if we try and move too far, too fast, and we make it unworkable for our farmers, the pushback will be so great that nothing will be achieved. So we need to support our farmers and growers, show them a way to a better future and a way that actually works. Look, I'll finish off by saying, look, please come and talk to me if you're ever out in New Zealand and you want to come and see us on farm and see what we do. We love having people on farm and showing them, how we grow food and why we grow it. We love telling our story, so the door's always open and you're always welcome at Woodhaven Gardens anytime. Thank you very much.